Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1585B and today's date is June 6th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Putin is on to the deep state, calls out Soros. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, they are in real trouble right now. And we know that Mueller, his investigation, he has absolutely nothing whatsoever. Actually, there's a report out there, and it looks like Mueller is becoming very, very desperate. And what is happening here is that he's blaming Paul Manafort for tampering with witnesses, even though it was Mueller who was tampering. We also see that Mueller is now ordering witnesses to hand over their personal phones so they can look at their messages. And many of the witnesses are doing this because they don't want to be subpoenaed. And this means that they're very desperate because what is happening is they're trying to find anything at this point because their investigation has gone nowhere and they spent a huge amount of taxpayer money on something that was completely made up. But this does open a can of worms because they are asking for everyone's personal phones and looking at their messages. What about those investigating the FBI and all the rest? Now they have the ability to say, now you need to hand over your phones and we want to see your personal messages. You think they're just going to go ahead and hand over their phones? Most likely not. We see right now that the White House, well, it looks like they're ready to snag a major victory in the war against the deep state. And we know the Inspector General's report is coming out. And it looks like the Justice Department internal watchdog has reportedly concluded that the former FBI Director James Comey and former Attorney General Loretta Lynch acted improperly in their handling of the investigation into the Hillary Clinton's use of private email server. Surprising there. Inspector General Michael Horowitz will reportedly characterize Comey's conduct as insubordinate. And we see right now that things are rapidly falling apart and things are going to change very rapidly. And we can see that already because McCabe went from I'm innocent, I'm going to sue Trump, mouthing off, to all of a sudden now saying, listen, I need a plea deal for immunity. And he did this in less than 3 months. So right now, the former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe is negotiating with Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley for immunity ahead of his testimony on the upcoming Department of Justice Inspector General report. He knows what's in there, and now he's turning on everyone. You know the deep state is very worried about this at this point, which means that he's going to be pointing the fingers at Comey. He's going to be talking about Clinton. He's going to be talking about everyone. Actually, he might not be alive for that much longer because we know with the Clintons' track record, people usually end up dead. We also see with Obama that the Senate, they were probing into Obama's secret Iran deal, and it looks like Obama sidestepped U.S. sanctions, the same sanctions that were placed on Iran, he sidestepped. And after airlifting billions in U.S. taxpayer cash on pallets to Tehran, the Obama administration secretly sought to give Iran access to the U.S. financial system by sidestepping sanctions kept in place after the 2015 nuclear deal. Despite repeatedly telling Congress and the public he had no plans to do so. So there was an investigation by the Senate Republicans, which was released Wednesday, that exposes the Obama administration politically motivated actions to secretly offer help to Iran while withholding the truth from the American people. How interesting. And what he did was he shopped around different banks. And he went to each bank and said, listen, will you do this? And basically, the bank said, no, we don't want to get involved in this. We don't want to get involved because there are sanctions on Iran right now. And if we do this, this is going to be a problem for our institutions. So this whole thing is blowing up in their faces. And we're going to find out a lot more that's going to come out. This is just the beginning part of it. And once McCabe starts to spill the beans on what was really going on, because if he does get the immunity, he's just going to basically tell them almost everything. And everyone's going to know everything that has been going on. So we can see right now, the deep state, they are in trouble at this point. What is happening around the world? Well, let's take a look for a second. We've been reporting on this. Out in the Middle East, what is happening there? Well, the deep state is losing their grip on the Middle East. They're losing their grip on Syria. Their paid army that they used to push terror across the Middle East is falling apart. Every single one of these countries where they had regime change, they're starting to take back control, which means the petrodollar is doomed. What is the petrodollar? The petrodollar is the deep state system, which was set up in 1971. That is falling apart. What else is falling apart? All the investigations that are going on with pedophilia, human trafficking, gun running. The wall is being built, and remember, it's not just a wall. It's basically to shut down the deep state. And the deep state is made up of the intelligence agencies, certain government officials, and many other individuals around the world. And it's all being shut down all at once. We can already see on the borders, remember when illegal aliens were just coming across the border and they were bussed off to different places, to sanctuary cities, because this was part of Obama's policy, and we know there's many different agendas associated with that, which we talked about many, many times before. Well, a report from Syracuse University shows that prosecution in April of 2018 of migrants illegally crossing the border jumped more than 160% over April 2017 prosecutions. They're stopping more and more of these individuals because now they have the wherewithal to do so. And basically, this is going to continually rise. And remember all those illegals that were supposed to just go to the border and make it a huge, big time trouble for the Trump administration? Whatever happened to that? It seems like they never carried through because they realized, guess what? They were going to be stopped. They were going to be pushed back, and they were going to be sent back. And the whole thing just kind of fizzled, and everything is done with. We can see right now from everything that we talked about, with all these investigations, a lot of these individuals are going to run, commit suicide, or squeal on each other and make sure, and of course, just like McCabe, they're going to make sure they have immunity. And we're going to see more of this. I mean, we're starting to see the beginning stages, and it took a long time to set all this up, but I do believe the Patriots have the control right now. They have the ability to take down the deep state. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No, I think it's going to take a little bit longer. I think they're going to have to put more things into place. Remember, the deep state, they just don't give up. They don't just say, hey, you know what? We're done with. We know it. We're not going to do anything. No, they're still trying to meet their goals. Soros is out there, still trying to push refugees into Europe. He still wants open borders. He still wants regime change. He still wants to get rid of the Constitution here in the United States. And it looks like Putin is calling out Soros, saying, we know what you've done. We know everything about you. We know that you push regime change in all these countries. Putin was on an Austrian TV show, and he started to talk about George Soros. Putin told the Austrian state ORF channel in an interview that the U.S. State Department would never admit to backing George Soros' alleged attempts to rock the euro. Yet Kremlin is being told to come clean on private internet companies meddling in politics. He said, there is such a personality in the U.S., Mr. Soros, who interferes in all affairs around the world. I often hear from my American friends that America as a state has nothing to do with his activities. There are rumors circulating now that Mr. Soros is planning to make the euro highly volatile. Experts are already discussing this. Ask the U.S. State Department why he's doing this. the State Department will say that it has nothing to do with them. Rather, it is Mr. Soros, his private affairs. Now, Soros is part of the deep state. Soros has been pushing this agenda for quite a while. And this is why he's trying to get the euro to fund, the European nations to fund the refugees coming from Africa into the European nations, because he wants the borders to be open there and he wants to blend all the countries. Remember, the deep state has not given up whatsoever. Putin, as we can see right now, Russia, China, many other nations, they're becoming braver and braver as time goes on. And they're not afraid to say, look, the deep state, they've been supporting the Islamic State. They've been funding them, supporting them. And we could see that Russia and China, they're becoming more and more brave as time comes on by pointing the fingers at what has been happening, because they realize right now that the deep state has been losing power. They're not in control anymore. And once you start to lose this control, you can start to point the fingers at who is responsible for all these things that have gone on throughout time. And this is what's happening right now. And we already see that there is peace in North Korea. There's going to be a summit, and I wouldn't rule out that they might try something there. We also see that the Inspector General report, that is coming out. We see McCabe is already flipped, and this is going to be a problem. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be an event when this report comes out or around that area. Maybe it'll be a little distraction to keep the little distraction in the news cycle. Maybe it won't be something gigantic, maybe just something small enough where they can just have that as the headline instead of what is really happening, because that's what they like to do. But what we're seeing right now is a complete and utter breakdown of the deep state system. And we're starting to see a lot of the things that Q has been talking about, they're starting to come true. And right now, Q is in blackout mode. Q has been telling us that there's a reason for it, and I'm assuming very soon that Q is going to be coming back on the boards to tell us what has been happening. And we see that the deep state, they are like a wild animal right now. They're being backed in a corner, and I wouldn't be surprised if they pull something out where they try to take control of the situation. The corporate media right now, they're floundering. They don't even know what to do with all of this. They're losing their grip also. And we're going to continually see this happen over time. Yes, the corporate media likes to play on emotions. They're pushing emotions, and that's all they have. And people look at this and say, this is it? This is all you have? Just emotions? They bring up all these ridiculous things that absolutely mean nothing. But the whole thing, which they're never going to tell you, is falling apart right now. And there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes, especially out in Syria. We knew things were happening behind the scenes in North Korea. And we're seeing there's a lot happening with the investigations here in the U.S. against those who are trafficking children, those who are involved in pedophilia, those who are involved in laundering money, stealing money from the government. This is why Trump, the Patriots, put these executive orders in place, basically to seize these assets. Because think about it, the deep state has trillions and trillions of dollars all hidden around the world. And guess what? With these executive orders, they're going to be able to seize all of that. And it's not just paper money, it's physical assets. So we see right now, everything is in place, everything's about to turn, and we're going to see a lot happen coming up. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.